A warm welcome to all. Now we would like to introduce Group 1. We have put together some insightful points and creative ideas that will enhance your understanding on the respective topics. Introduction to Modernism in Indian Literature. Modern Indian literature marks a dynamic shift in storytelling, blending traditional narratives with modern experimentation. Writers are exploring the complexities of contemporary India, addressing social, political, and cultural changes. Marginalized voices are rising, and themes like urbanization, hybrid identities, and environmental issues take center stage. Many also reinterpret mythological tales while reflecting on India's post-colonial identity and the effects of globalization. This evolving literary landscape, with a blend of regional languages and English, highlights India's rich diversity and its ongoing dialogue with modernity. There are many themes in modernism in Indian literature. Here I highlighted 3 of them. Multiplicity of voices. The theme of multiplicity of voices in modern Indian literature highlights the diverse perspectives of marginalized groups such as women, Dalits, and regional communities. By incorporating these voices, contemporary writers challenge dominant narratives and offer a richer, more inclusive portrayal of India's identity, reflecting the country's complex social and cultural realities. Hybrid identities and globalization. The theme of hybrid identities in modern Indian literature shows how globalization shapes characters who blend traditional Indian values with global influences and reflecting the tension between cultural heritage and modernity. Language experimentation. Language experimentation in modern Indian literature blends regional languages with English, reflecting India's diversity and challenging traditional norms to capture the complexity of modern life.
Indian poetry is rich and diverse with a long history and many notable poets. Let's look into Arun Kolatkar, who is an Indian poet who wrote both in Marathi and English. His poems were rich in imagery and has deep social comments and explores human existence. Let's look into 2 of his poems, Boat Ride and The Old Woman. The Boat Ride and The Old Woman are concerned with social inequalities and search for meaning in everyday interaction. In the poem Old Woman, he talks about the harsh realities of life in India, especially the plight of the marginalized. He talks about the neglect faced by the poor people. The poem Boat Ride talks about human relationship and fleeting nature of life. Both the poems talk about impermanent nature of situations in life and how people struggle hard every day to run their life.
Sujatha Bhatt is an Indian poet. She was born in Ahmedabad and brought up in Pune. She received the Commonwealth Poetry Prize and Alice Hunt Bartlett Prize for her first collection in 1987. Her poems have received immense appreciation throughout the world. Partition and Search for My Tongue are 2 such poems that showcases her love towards the land. The poem Partition explores the theme of identity, memory, and the impact of historical event on personal lives. The speaker lives in guilt over not being able to help the citizens during the time of partition. She hears the cries of thousands stranded on the Ahmedabad railway station and yearns to help them, only to never gather the courage to go with her aunt in order to support them. In the poem Search for My Tongue, the poet showcases how one struggles with the use of their native language and the language of the new environment. To showcase such differences, the poet writes a stanza in Gujarati. The use of her native language in a complete new setting feels useless to the speaker, as no one would understand her. Yet, she is never able to throw out her mother tongue and it stays with her. She uses the example of a bud sprouting in order to represent the image of that of her mother tongue that sprouts out of her mouth and stays within her throughout her life.
Arundhathi Subramaniam is a celebrated Indian poet and writer known for exploring themes of identity, spirituality, and urban life. Her works, blending mythology and personal experience, has won awards like the Sahitya Academy Award, Raza Award for Poetry, the Zee Women's Award for Literature, and many more. She is also recognized for her prose on culture and spiritual figures. In the poems When God is a Traveler and When Landscape Becomes Woman, Arundhathi Subramaniam intricately weaves together the themes of identity, transformation, and the divine's intersection with human experience. In both poems, she explores the fluid nature of existence, suggesting that identity is not fixed but evolves through time and circumstances, much like the god and woman who populate her verses. The divine figures in these poems are not distant, omnipotent beings, but intimate, relatable presences embodying both the extraordinary and the everyday. In When God is a Traveler, Subramaniam delves into the myth of Kartikeya, the god of war and wisdom, who is portrayed as a traveler, always in motion, never settling. This image of a wandering god becomes a metaphor for human existence, where the journey itself rather than the destination holds meaning. Kartikeya's restlessness mirrors the inner quest for purpose and understanding, emphasizing that divinity can be found in the very act of seeking. When landscape becomes woman, on the other hand, shifts the focus to femininity and nature, portraying that landscape as a woman who is at once powerful, nurturing, and constantly transforming. Here, Subramaniam merges the natural world with the feminine, suggesting that both are dynamic and resilient, embodying cycles of creation, destruction, and renewal. The landscape as women metaphor reinforces the idea that identity, whether human or divine, is shaped by external forces. It remains deeply rooted in an inner strength and adaptability. Both poems reflect Subramaniam's exploration of mythology and gender to address existential
A Century Later and Tissue by Imitiaz Dharker. Imitiaz Dharker is a Pakistani-born British poet, artist and video film maker. She won the Queen's Go Medal for her English poetry. Imitiaz Dharker's works explores Indian diaspora experiences and cultural identity, fragility of human connection and belonging, and her works mainly highlights the complexities of identity. In this poem, A Century Later honors the courage and persistence of the young women who have fought for their rights to an education in places where school has been forbidden to them. And it also explores the impact of war on children, specifically on girls who wish to educate themselves against violent opposition. Dharker uses contrasting imagery to depict the impact of war on children. Oxymoron shows the danger facing student. The school bell is called to battle. In this poem, Tissue, the poet urges us to consider the things we might think of as permanent as not, in fact, any more permanent than our own human tissue. In Tissue, Human Essence, this poem compares the significance and fragility of paper documents to the fleeting nature of building structures. The essence of human being can outlast even things that seem permanent but have collapsed, like large buildings. Major themes of this poem are identity and belonging, memory and history, displacement and longing, etc. First, identity and belonging. The speaker reflects on their ancestral past, cultural heritage, and sense of belonging. Memory and history. The poem explores the power of memory and its relationship to history. Displacement and longing. The speaker yearns for connection to their ancestral land.
So the next slide is about Jeet. Jeet is an Indian poet, novelist, librettist, and musician. He is the author of several poetry collections, including These Errors Are Correct in 2008, which won the Sahitya Academy Award. His first novel, Narcopolis, won the DSC Prize for South Asian Literature and was shortlisted for the 2012 Man Booker Prize and the Hindu Literary Prize. Thayil was born in Kerala, India. His father is writer and editor Thayil Jacob Sonny George, and the family moved with his work Thayil was raised in Mumbai until age 8, then moved to Hong Kong and returned to Mumbai at the age of 18, where he graduated from Wilson College. He later completed an MFA at Sarah Lawrence College in New York until age 40. Thayil lived in Mumbai, Bengaluru and worked as a journalist in Mumbai, Bengaluru, Hong Kong and New York. As a songwriter and guitarist, he is one half of the contemporary music project Sridham Thayil. Coming to the works of Jeet Thayil, the common and central themes between his poems The Spiritus Mundi and Nativism is identity and belonging. Both poems explore question of self-cultural affiliation and national identity. Cultural hybridity. Both poems engage with the blending of traditions, influences, and the tension between cultural purity and hybridity. Decentering dominant narratives. Both poems challenge dominant discourses with the colonial, imperial, and globalized. Rootlessness and displacement. Both poems reflect on the experience of displacement, exile, and the search for roots, spirituality, and mysticism. Both poems may explore spiritual themes, seeking transcendence and meaning. Thank you.